After 3 issues and a little bit over of Peter Parker just sitting around moping, he finally snaps out of his depression when he sees the deadly toll a Blight-infected Callix takes on New York City. Is it enough to turn this lemon of an arc into some lemonade? Let's find out in our review of Amazing Spider-Man number 68 from Marvel Comics. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Amazing Spider-Man number 68. But before we dig in, here's a quick recap. When we last left Peter Parker in Amazing Spider-Man number 67, Spider-Man decided to sit out the 3rd issue in a row and a little bit over for this arc. Instead, Juggernaut and the Alaska-based X-Men led by Cyclops arrived in New York City to battle the next scion of Cyttorak. The X-Men win the battle pretty easily, which is strange in and of itself, but the day is far from over when a previous scion, Callix, arrives, possessed by an unstoppable force called the Blight, to tear the Earth apart. And that brings us to the current issue. In Amazing Spider-Man number 68, the inevitability of death takes its toll. The issue begins with Syra reeling from the death of her brother Kratios at the hands of Callix when he showed up at the end of the last issue. She decides Peter's time for moping is done, so she shows him that his friends, loved ones, including Aunt May, and some random citizens have died from attacks by Callix's hellhounds. Peter is shocked because their deaths were not what Syra foretold during her challenge, when she showed him the uselessness of life when death is random. She explains circumstances have changed and his inaction led to their premature death. Peter decides to suit up and continue the fight, but before Spidey joins the X-Men in battle, he gives Phil Coulson, who is now the Avatar of Death, his remaining resurrection reeds to bring back the innocent people who died. Now, we see the consequences. If Spidey dies in battle against a scion of Cyttorak, whether it's Callix, Syra, or anyone else, his death will be permanent. He has no way to resurrect himself. If you've got 2 brain cells to rub together, you already see where this is going. Meanwhile, the X-Men can barely hold their own against Callix's never-ending supply of hellhounds. They keep spawning over and over again. Syra prompts Spidey to attack Callix directly to stop the destruction because she can tell that his power has somehow been corrupted. She doesn't know it's the Blight, but she knows something is off. Spidey unleashes a magic spell he learned from Doctor Strange, which was essentially given to him as a weapon of last resort, but the spell accomplishes nothing. It's a lot of flash, a lot of bang, but no effect. Callix infects the X-Men with the Blight, which spreads to everyone nearby like a virus, and then he chooses to depart. He concludes the situation on Earth is in hand, so Callix just decides that he's going to return to his home realm to take over from his father, Cyttorak. As the Blight infection spreads like wildfire, Syra pulls Spidey into a liminal space to prevent his infection and assess the situation. She concludes their only hope is to follow Callix back to Cyttorak and use their combined powers with her father to stop Callix and the Blight at the source. The issue concludes with a killing field of scions, an immobile Cyttorak, who is frozen for some reason that's never explained, and Callix turning into a lethal pain in the neck for Spider-Man, and it is exactly what it sounds like. And that's the issue, so let's talk about impressions, art, positives, and what have you. Wow. Man, this arc just sucks. This is a terrible arc, and there's just no nice way to put it. This just is a terrible, terrible story, written badly, conceived with a dumb idea, and the execution is, where do you go from here? Yes, I know that's not a very thoughtful way to put it, which is what this channel and these reviews are known for, but at some point you have to conclude that more energy and thought went into writing this review than anyone at Marvel put into the story. I mean, we can't be better writers than the writers on the comic, can we? Well, yeah, in this case, maybe that is the case. Peter Parker spent 3 issues and a little bit over moping about the uselessness of life, but everything gets reversed in the blink of an eye in this issue with a plot device that doesn't make any sense. Good grief. You know what, let's just move on. All right, let's take a beat to talk about the art for a second before we get to the positives and the negatives. Andrea Briccardo, Scott Hanna, and Marcio Menes do their level best to make let's be frank, it's a stupid story, look interesting. Briccardo's pencils are solid, elevated by Scott Hanna's inks to give it a little bit more oomph, a little bit more pep around the edges, which is great. And the coloring choices are bright enough to catch your eye. So just in general visual themes, this comic is fine. That said, the character designs do get a little close to the cartoonish side of things, which kind of dampens whatever dramatic weight and impact this story has. So let's put a little positive spin on this. How great is Amazing Spider-Man number 68? Well, Justina Ireland finally snaps Peter out of his multi-issue pity party to do something heroic. That's good. He suits up, he puts on the special magic suit that he's got from Dr. Doom, and he does something. It's not much. It's really not really effective at all in this issue if you look about what happened in this issue, but at least it's something. All right, let's talk about what doesn't work, which, if you haven't guessed by now, is quite a lot. How did Justina Ireland and Joe Kelly come up with a plot this boneheaded? The entire crux of this issue depends on Peter snapping out of his doldrums by seeing the death of his friends and family, specifically Aunt May. But Syra already showed him the future deaths of his friends and family. When he questions why they're different, she says circumstances have changed. But the circumstances that changed had nothing to do with Peter's actions or inactions. It's all Callix. Callix is doing everything. Callix, who is Syra's brother. All of that is happening outside and independent of what Peter is doing, but somehow that led to a new death that Syra couldn't foresee, and somehow Peter is taking responsibility for that, like it's his fault. What on earth is this plot hole? How many random developments are readers supposed to endure before they just said enough is enough and just give up on the series altogether? Good grief. Now you might be thinking, well, that's just one plot hole. Why are you being so picky about that? No, that's the biggest one, but there are others. There are questions all over the place. Why didn't Sidorak intervene when Callix went haywire because he got infected from the Blight? That all happened outside of the Earth realm, but Sidorak just sat there and let things happen. How and when did the X-Men get infected? You don't see it take place on the panel, and you can't even tell from the art that it happened in the first place. If you look real close and squint your eyes, you can see some of the X-Men's eyes turn white. But that's not the same as what the Blight looks like, not from Callix or anything else. But it just sort of explained that's how it happened. Why is it the only people who died from Callix's Hellhound attack happen to all be a small group of people that happen to be standing right in front of the Feast offices that Marvel keeps obnoxiously shoehorning into every issue? We're sick about hearing about Feast. I don't want to hear about Feast anymore. Stop bringing up Feast. Nobody cares about Feast, but they keep bringing it up. And it happened to be just the same number of people that died, where it happens to match the exact same number of resurrection reads that Spidey had in his possession. Come on, man, there are hellhounds running all around the streets, and the only people who died are just the ones standing in front of the Feast office that just happen to match the same number of resurrection reads that Peter has? Come on, man, it's just getting silly. Except for the art, this story is just plain dumb. Final thoughts, what do we think about Amazing Spider-Man number 68? There's no other nice way to put it. This issue, like the whole arc, continues to demonstrate that Marvel has no intention of writing a good Spider-Man comic anytime soon. Justina Ireland's plot is just sloppy and boneheaded. I mean, this is throwaway junk stuff, buoyed only slightly by a decent art from the art team. So, there's something there. If Joe Kelly can't turn the ship around when he takes over the title permanently in a month or two here, Amazing Spider-Man will be Marvel's flagship title no more. And sure, forgive the Spidey reference, but man, you almost want to throw it away at this point. Therefore, Amazing Spider-Man number 68 earns a 4 out of 10, and that's even being a little bit generous. I mean, this is just junk. This is a junk arc with a junk issue. But what do you think? Am I losing the will to continue to review Amazing Spider-Man? I really hope not. I really hope for Marvel's sake that they can turn it around, but this is not looking good. Leave a thumbs up if you found this review helpful, and drop a comment below with your hopes and dreams for what Joe Kelly can do with the title when he takes over. Can he turn the ship around, or have we reached the point of no return? Let me know what you think below. Also, remember to click on the description to read the written review, check out the variant covers and preview pages, and buy the comic to help support the channel. Your support, of course, is greatly appreciated, and if you're watching on YouTube, please click the subscribe button down below. So thank you very much for joining, and stay tuned through the outro for more reviews just like this one.